Welcome everybody to the Alternative Sports Show powered by Verge Magazine. I'm Matthew Connell, once again joined by my co-pilot Andre Dixon, and we got a pretty exciting call going on here today on the Zoom world. As you can see, we've got two of Formula E's finest from Jaguar Racing, Mitch Evans and Sam Bird. Gentlemen, how you all doing?
Good, thank you. Good. Thank you. Sure.
Now, we kind of set this up on the call earlier. We had a little dip test of where everyone's based. So, Sam, where are you based at the moment in the world at this moment on a Monday?
On a slow Monday afternoon, I'm based in my new house in the south of England, in Sandbanks.
Beautiful. And Mitch, good sir, I have a little feeling that you are living it up just as good.
I'm in the south of France, so I'm in Monaco at the moment. This is my home. So here between races. So the summer's kicking in here, nice and so it's nice and warm. So can't complain.
I hate you.
I know. I think that makes three of us, Mitch.
Do you guys like Mitch's wallpaper? That's actually his wallpaper.
I like
at his house.
I'm a big fan because it blends in with the skies. I've seen it. I've been and I've tasted those Monaco skies, and it's the same shade of blue.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge fan of the team, so I just have it in my wall. So.
I'm jealous because I am meanwhile in Croydon, so I think I've got the shortest straw out of everyone here.
Yeah, so shout out to Croydon. It's still a beautiful place.
Big up the Croydon crew.
See, this is it. It's a truly international fair of all kinds. Croydon could be its own country. I'm in a fake budget Monaco. I'm in North Greenwich, but I can see the river, so I can pretend I'm in Sandbanks in Monaco.
It's rainy, and I get it.
But yeah, it's not as beautiful, of course. But gentlemen,
you've got the palm tree, you've got the purple light. You've got some kind of vibe going.
I was saying, like we were talking about backgrounds earlier. Of course, Dre's got the most popular selection of shirts that gets every guest fascinated, and I've got the budget beach club vibe going on. So we're all having a good time out here, nevertheless.
Yeah.
But gentlemen, of course, Formula E has well and truly as a sport grown leaps and bounds over the last few years. I've been so privileged to see and experience that growth. Of course, both of you gentlemen experience in the sport as well. Of course, for Team Jaguar, it's actually been a in my opinion, a fairly decent season. There's been plenty of podiums. Of course, so far this season, we've had Diriyah, Rome, Valencia, Monaco. And of course, we talk about race one, Diriyah. Well, Mitch, you had a podium, third. Race two, of course, Sam, you won that. And in race three, in Rome, shared the podium together, which is beautiful. And Mitch, of course, in Monaco, frustrating end, but nevertheless, still a podium. Starting with you, Sam, how would you rate the season so far? And how's it? I mean, it's so early still, but your thoughts, how's it gone so far?
Yeah, so far, really encouraged by what we've been able to do at Jaguar Racing. I knew I was coming into a strong team, but it's been really refreshing to see how hard everybody works at this team. It's been great working with Mitch. All the engineers are pushing super hard, and do you know what I genuinely believe that if we continue learning, if we really limit our mistakes from now until the end of the year, we've got a really decent shot at taking the fight to Mercedes and to DS.
Mitch, what about you, good sir?
Yeah, I'm super happy with how it's gone so far. Obviously, new teammate with Sam, so it's been good to start working with him and learning from him, and having both cars at the front of the field is really exciting for the team. So. All in all, it's been a strong start, and we're looking forward to the second half of the season. We're just under halfway, so still a lot to play for. But we've put ourselves in a good place, performance-wise, points-wise. So we should be in a good, hopefully in a good situation come later in the season. But all in all, very happy, but still a long way to go.
So I traditionally have been a big American sports fan, as you can tell with my manic background, hiding my clothes behind me. But so I haven't actually experienced any Formula E races. Matt, luckily for him, has. But I'm just ask you, for new fans, what is it about the sport of Formula E that makes it so exciting, and what does it mean to both of you guys?
Go for it, Sam.
You sure? Okay. I mean, so it's an interesting one. So for a new fan, Formula E is a all electric racing single seater series where we go and race on street circuits in city centres to take electrification to the heart of cities, to educate people about the form of mobility that people are going to be using in the future, because let's face it, that is the future. So we're basically in the fastest electric advertising banner in the world currently. But what's so great about it is there's more manufacturers involved in Formula E now than there are in Formula One. I think the driver lineup, pound for pound, from top to bottom, in depth, is probably the strongest in the world. And the races are a length where the viewer, whether it be at the track or on TV at home, can really get invested into it and enjoy a 45-minute plus one lap experience of us going at it wheel to wheel. The cars are predominantly the same until the end of the battery, and then the manufacturers get involved in basically the gearbox housing and basically the efficiency of the vehicle, which makes the difference between the teams. So it's very, very, very close between everybody, which makes it very, very action-packed for those 45 minutes. And yeah, I love it. It's great fun, super competitive. One weekend you can be first, the next weekend you can be 15th, and you don't really understand why. It's just because it's so close. Whereas in other forms of motorsport, you kind of know the pecking order before you get to the event.
What about you, Mitch?
I mean, I can't really comment.
The ambassador, Sam.
Yeah, Sam did a real good job there. He had me ready to go.
Yeah, guys, I'm 34. I've been involved in this thing from the beginning. So
exactly.
I mean, I just reeled that off now. That's wheeled off.
You've been in it for quite a while. Because for yourself, Mitch, because you're in your mid-20s, so of course, like you've seen quite a spectrum of motorsport. And what is it about Formula E for yourself as developing as a driver? It seems like such a good place to learn. Like Sam said, the roster is pretty impressive, and it's been pretty impressive for the last few years. So for yourself as a racer, just what do you take from it?
Yeah, I guess initially to get into Formula E was quite a unique step for anyone, because it's one of its kind. It's the first full electric championship in the world. I came in season 3. Sam's been there since season 1. So I signed Jaguar. I came with Jaguar into the championship in 2016, and then I've stuck with them, and they've stuck with me since, which has been really cool. But the transition was quite a unique experience to start, with this very new technology, to learn about that, how to get the most out of it, and to work with a team or manufacturer like Jaguar at a very high level. I used to do, Formula 2, or when I did a GP2 against Sam actually a couple of years. So yeah, I've always driven petrol engine cars, internal combustion engine cars. So, even since we're in go-karts, so to go into electric has been quite a, obviously very unique experience, but very cool. I've enjoyed every step of the way. And obviously the championship's grown, as well as the technology. So to be part of that process is quite cool. And to know we're having a direct impact on the automotive industry for the production line of, let's say, Jaguar's future cars is a really, really special experience. So not many drivers can be able to say that. So yeah, and then on top of that, from a sporting point of view, the championship just throws up so many challenges. It's really competitive, and it's really rewarding when you get it right. So yeah, it's hard not to like it. I think for a viewer that's maybe been in motorsport for many years and watched F1 or other categories, initially it may seem a bit strange with a lack of sound, but if you enjoy really unpredictable racing, you can't not like it. So yeah, I've really enjoyed my time so far, and I do see myself hopefully here for the for the future. So yeah, it's a good place to be.
Well, yeah, if you're a fan of motorsport, and maybe, for those that haven't quite, got their finger on the pulse at Formula E, just go to the Formula E YouTube channel and check out some of the Monaco highlights. There's some pretty spicy stuff going down in that race. And
yeah,
the great,
exactly.
It's insane, right? It's And the great thing is as well, it's like, you know, with Formula E, you're traveling to places that, you know, for example, Formula One doesn't cover on a calendar. Of course, this year, well, we're going to Mexico, but also like New York is coming up. We'll touch upon later on the London street circuit that's coming up. Of course, Berlin. For you gents, when you know, you get your race calendar and you take a look at it, of course it's strictly business, and of course are many great races. But are there certain places when you know, you get the schedule, you look at it and go, oh yeah, I like this place, I like this circuit, I like this city, I like this town. What do you look forward to, Sam?
I mean, I think me and Mitch, we really like going to Berlin. We don't like going to Berlin. That's sarcastic. Yeah, sorry.
Shout out Temple Huff.
We literally can't drive that circuit. I don't know why. But there are some places that I really enjoy. Of course, I'm going to say London after this year. I'm going to be enjoying that as a home track. But I enjoy driving Rome. Rome for me is a fantastic circuit. I enjoy the challenge of it. I also enjoy driving Paris on a qualifying lap. I enjoy driving New York. I used to enjoy Hong Kong when that was on the calendar. There was Montreal when we went to Montreal. That was probably the pinnacle of the circuits that we've been into so far. Do you know what? We are blessed with quite a cool calendar when it comes to circuits. There's not many that are, let's call it boring, or that showcase boring races. So every track that we go to normally throws up quite an interesting race, whether that's because it's chaos or because it's a tactical thing. I also enjoy Riyadh. Riyadh's been kind to me, and I enjoy the flow of the circuit. So, yeah, I don't really have a bad one that I say I hate, apart from Berlin.
Mitch, what about you? Apart from the Berlin hate, but it's not. Can I just say with Berlin, I've been to that race and it's pretty. I mean, look, it's an interesting circuit, really old airport. Also, fun little Easter egg fact here. Was a film set for Hunger Games, and yeah, there you go. So
okay,
a few movie fans out there. I noticed that and I was like, I know this sketchy looking airport. That's Temple Huff. Yeah. What about you, Mitch? What's your favorites?
Obviously not Berlin, but there's I mean, as Sam touched on, the whole calendar is pretty exciting. Rome's been kind to me in the past, but the old layout and obviously the layout this year. There's a few tracks that would have been really exciting to go to that have, unfortunately with the COVID stuff, that have sort of put a pause on that. And that's Jakarta, Seoul, some others that were sort of in the pipeline potentially. I love going to New York. You know, the track is not too bad, but obviously just be able to race in New York City. We're in Brooklyn. You know, that's a really, you know, fascinating location to have a race. So I love going there. So I'm looking forward to going back to New York. You know, Canada was fantastic. But it's very hard to choose one. You know, I think some of the locations are incredible. Maybe the not quite as good, but you know, definitely the locations make up for it. And vice versa. Sometimes the locations are not as third, but the tracks are incredible. So I think we're very lucky to have a calendar where it's you know most tracks have throw up a huge challenge. I think it was a shame that Berlin changed from the actual street track. I never got to experience that one, and then it went to Tempelhof. But I think if we get that track back in the streets, that would be really, really cool. Not just because I've not had the greatest history there, especially last year for the championship. And it's probably my least favorite in terms of driving because there's not much character to it. So to get it back to the street where you just get natural, sort of obstacles in terms of potholes, different surfaces, crownings of the road, that's what really throws up a big challenge for us. So, but yeah, most of the races are pretty epic, so can't really complain.
So let's talk essential items. What do you guys bring yourselves that team doesn't bring for you in travel wardrobes? I'm being nosy here. I'll start with Sam.
Right, what do I take to a race? I mean, the most important thing for me is my contact lenses. So I am blind as a bat without them. So if I forgot them, then I'd be crashing in the pits. So that's probably the most important thing. And then I always take some gym kit because I'd quite like to go for a run normally, or maybe do a workout at some point as often as I can when I'm at the races, especially if we stay in some nice hotels, then I can use the gym facilities, or we could before COVID. Yeah, as you can tell, I'm not that keyed up or clued up on the whole looking after myself maintenance thing. So I don't really have an essential item besides the toothbrush and the toothpaste. So yeah, that's pretty much it. A bit of gym kit. Of course, I take my headphones and some muck off accessories. So to keep my helmet fresh and clean, I use muck off products. Apart from that, nothing else.
About you, Mitch?
Little sponsor plug.
Yeah, a little sponsor plug there going on.
To be honest, nothing really exciting. I take too many undies because why I do is just obviously for emergencies, but we get sweaty in the cars, so I always like having to make sure that's fine, because we can go to some remote-ish places like Mexico and stuff. You just don't want to get yourself in trouble there. Apart from that, honestly, it's really not exciting. My iPads, because I watch Netflix to kill time on the flights or in the hotel if I've got nothing to do. My AirPods or earphones. That's basically it. It's really, really boring. Because fortunately, all our race kit is taken by the team, all our helmets. So as long as we turn up there with ourselves in a good state, then most other things sort of taken care of. So really, honestly, really boring. So.
Well, that's good. At least you got the essentials. I'd be worried if we didn't hear stuff like toothbrushes and stuff like that, because otherwise we'd be in proper trouble. But that question was purely inspired by the recent Jaguar video where you, Mitch, were showing off your travel wardrobe. Of course, got your New Zealand flag in there as well. What I thought was quite a good touch. That's important. The way the season has been going, you need your nation's flags in there as well.
Which is a shame. So we use it for it's there for a victory, to take up, but it hasn't happened this year, so it's still brand new.
It's a special moment whenever it gets rolled out, and that's it. We know where it is, we know where we need it, and it's all good to go. We're a sport channel here, chaps. So of course, we love all kinds of sports, and all kinds of professional athletes like yourselves love different kind of sports. Now, I think I kind of know the answer, because good old thanks to Wikipedia, it has very importantly got on Sam's personal info that he's a Man United fan. But first up, Sam, Dre shakes his head, Liverpool fan. So here we go. Sam, what?
Because from Croydon, you need to be.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you very much. I'm so glad.
I promised I would be nice.
Talk, can I? I'm from Surrey, and I support Man United, so that's even worse.
It's quite it's quite, to be fair to both of you, it's quite questionable. But we'll both give you free passes. But Sam, is when you're out and about traveling, if you do get that time or in between races to just let your hair down, focus a bit more on the world, other sports. Of course, football, but is there anything else, or is it just football that you look out for as a fan?
I'm a massive sports fan as well. If there's sport on, decent sport, I'm going to be watching it. So if there's good golf on, I love a round of golf. So I play off 10. Nice. So I'm not a bad golfer. I'm not a good golfer, but I'm somewhere in the middle, and I enjoy a round of golf. So when there's PGA on, I'll watch that. If there's decent tennis on, I'll watch that. Cricket, used to love my cricket as a kid. So been tuning into the England, New Zealand recently. Love my boxing and MMA as well. So I was disappointed Mayweather didn't smash him last night.
I stayed up for that, and I feel sad for watching it.
What was that about?
Shocking.
Anyway, I was disappointed with that. Considering his skill level, I thought that would be a foregone conclusion, but I suppose it's an exhibition, so it was what it was. Look, I just enjoy competitive sport. I don't think it matters what it is. I just like people pushing themselves to the pinnacle of their ability, because I can relate to it and I enjoy it. I enjoy watching people who are very skilled at their certain disciplines.
I was hoping that you would have said NFL there. That's why I was really not for the sports, and I was thinking he's going to say NFL, and then I was going to do the recruitment drive for you to be a Giants fan.
Do you know what? I really appreciate those guys, and I appreciate the NBA as well. But I love I do watch the NBA probably more than I would watch NFL, as I think it's probably a little bit more televised than NFL in the UK. However, it's just a skill set that I almost can't relate to because I'm 5'5". So it's I actually had to, for my previous team, I had to do a day with I think it was the Paris Saint-Germain basketball team, which was cool. They had some old NBA players there, some French guys that used to play in the NBA, and they're like 6'9".
Oh,
and I'm down by their shin bone, trying to play this game, and I looked ridiculous. You should see the pictures. I'm sure there's pictures online. It was a joke. It was a joke how much of a dwarf that I look, to be honest.
It's brutal. What about you, Mitch? What kind of sports catch your eye?
Yeah, I'm a massive sports lover as well. Before I came to Europe, obviously rugby is a big part of New Zealand's life and culture. So I used to follow that a lot. It's a little bit trickier to follow when you're over here, but I've sort of gravitated a bit more towards football. I'm not like a massive fan, but it took me quite a few years. But I do follow the Premier League, not every match and not every week, but especially when there's good matches on, I'll try and watch them.
He's a Man City fan, guys.
Oh, is it? Is that what you read? Is that what you watch, team, Mitch?
I didn't know all this stuff before. This is completely unacceptable.
Okay.
We just this is you.
The
reason why I support Man City is because I saw a series on Man City on Amazon Prime called All or Nothing.
All or Nothing.
And I never supported a team. And after that, they just got me. So it got a neutral guy, and I was hooked. So and I love the coaching skills of Pep and just how the team come together. It's very, very, very impressive. Other sports, a little bit of the NBA. I mean, I don't watch like every game again, and probably a lot less than other sports. But obviously, there's a big Kiwi star, Steven Adams, who's just moved teams, obviously. But yeah, he's quite a big star back home. I mean, I'm the same. If there's Roland Garros on, there's Wimbledon coming up. All those sports is I just love. It's fascinating to see any sportsman or any sports team operating at the highest level. I think it's just incredible, especially sports where you can relate to. I think motorsport's quite hard to relate to for some people, for a lot of people. But obviously, all of us can go and pick up a basketball or a tennis racket, and then or a golf club, and you get a real appreciation for those athletes. So yeah, but I love it. I love getting amongst it and watching it. So yeah.
Well, I don't blame you for supporting Man City, because the only Kiwi we've got playing in the Premier League is Chris Wood over at Burnley, and the choice of Burnley versus Man City is incomparable. So good choice on the Man City stuff.
Yeah. Good. And Winston Reid as well, but he's
of course down at Brentford. Right? Yeah, he's on the way back up. Yeah, he's at Brentford. They got promoted.
He was a decent player.
Yeah,
he was a decent player.
He's back in the Premier League of Brentford. So yeah, shout out to.
Is he back now?
Yeah. So they got promoted. So Brentford, Winston Reid were back at it. So as long as his contract's still good up there, then we got another one. We got another New Zealand folk in the Premier
League. So I was just going to ask, for people like me that really knows, you want to know what you guys, more about what makes you tick. What actually happens in between races? So outside of the race weekends where for example, like you've got Mexico and Monaco where there's a lot of time in between. What do you guys get to do in between those races where there's a lot of time?
I mean, so of course we have to keep fit. That's one of the main things that we do. So me and Mitch will be racking up the miles out on the road or on a treadmill, putting in hours on the bike, doing strength and conditioning work in the gym. So we spend a lot of time doing that. Then in the meantime, we've had countless meetings with our engineers and other parts of our team to try and learn about what we did well, learn from our mistakes from the previous rounds, and try and improve the car. We have quite a lot of simulation days, whether that is for the next track or correlation work from the previous event compared to the simulator. What are the differences? How can we make it better? Can we work on the tire model? Do we need to work on the tracks, or do we need to work on the car? So there's all these things going on a weekly basis. So it's not like we down tools on a Saturday afternoon after the race and then go and live the life of Riley for 2 or 3 weeks. We do genuinely work hard. And there are a lot of things that we do. For example, tomorrow I've got 2 days of simulation. Then Mitch is following up with 2 days of simulation in preparation for Mexico. So that's just a little example.
Right, well, I would say it is the same for you, Mitch, but is there anything else that you specifically, like to keep on top of when it gets down to that rate, that kind of gap? Is it more about a mental reset? Again, is it keeping the physicality up? How do you balance that mentally?
Yeah, it all depends. Obviously with this example with a 5-week break, we had quite a busy period before that. So you just want to almost for a week, just sort of unwind and almost forget about racing for a bit, digest it, and then come back and speak with the team and speak about things that Sam said, debrief with them, what we could have done better, what we did well, etc. And then it's sort of just bits and pieces. We've had some media days in the UK. We've had simulator days, development days. So it's there's always bits and pieces going on. Every day is a bit different. But yeah, I try and have a few days to myself, just to almost have a slightly normal life and just, go for dinner with friends and then just, go to the beach or go for a swim or whatever it is, just mix it up. So, because, we're halfway through the season, we can't go crazy, we can't go out, obviously, get on the lash and getting stuff, we still have to keep focused, but we also don't want to be, it depends on the person, but for me, I can't be completely focused on the race stuff every single day. You just end up almost burning yourself out for no reason. So it's just finding that balance. And I think at our age, we know what works for us, and every driver is a little bit different. So yeah, I just keep it, I just keep it pretty chilled and try not to get too fat in between races, and come back and start preparing pretty hard, and that's already starting now for Mexico. It's starting to ramp up a lot. Now we've got a lot of info on the track, what to expect. We can start to prepare really well for that venue. So but nothing too mind blowing, to be honest.
Well, that shows why you and yourself, Mitch and Sam are the pros. As soon as you said on the lash, I was like, yes, please. So that shows where that's where my professional choices lie. But gentlemen, we have, of course, we're a UK based channel platform, and of course, very exciting stuff for all UK and hopefully the whole world is going to be excited for the London race that comes up in July 24th, 25th, double header. London Docklands, which has, out by the XL, has doubled up as Olympic venue, an NHS hospital, all kinds of many venues, all kinds of conventions and madness. More so, we'll kick off with you, Sam, because of course, being the Brit here, how exciting is it that we're going to have a fresh London track in the wonderful XL Centre, which is for me very bizarre. I've been there many of times, and I just think of really stupid thoughts like, you could just whiz through, stop by a Subway, get a sandwich, hit up Costa, and there you go. So that's what's to offer in the XL. But for yourself, on a serious note, what are you looking forward to?
It's just great to be back in London, to be honest. You know, it's the city that I've got so many fond memories as a kid growing up around the Surrey, London area. A lot of my friends live in London. So it is very much my home race. I won there in season 1. I'd dearly love to do it again. Obviously, the championship has grown massively since then in terms of its professionalism and its exposure, and the quality of drivers and teams involved now is much higher. But it feels like we've been speaking about this race for a long time. It's probably because we have. I mean, I did a track preview like 2 years ago now. Obviously, then the world changed, and we're still speaking about it. But very excited. We've got a few races to go before we get there, so I'm not thinking about it too much just yet. I'm thinking about Mexico right now. But you're right, it's going to be an amazing event. I hope that we can open up to more fans when we get to London. I think that's going to be key to make it a cool atmosphere. And let's not forget, it'll be the first World Motorsport event of this kind where we race outdoors and indoors. We're actually going into the venue, so that'll be a first, and that'll be exciting.
Mitch, how does it work with a team and, you know, with all the great guys back at the factory and whatnot that help prepare for these races, especially when you're going to a circuit that hasn't been raced before? What goes into the prep? How can you look at it and go, right, how do we approach this?
Yeah, it's tricky. A lot of work goes into trying just to find little details on the circuit. A lot of it's done on the simulator, to be honest. Obviously, you can get intel, obviously, with being on, you know, teams, UK-based teams may even be checking out the circuit to see what layout, what surface they could be using. It could be resurfaced, and the track actual layout, you know, doesn't get decided until only probably like a month or so before the race. So once we get the layout for the simulator, we do most of our preparation through that. And then it's trying to work out optimum setup for those types of corners, and you know, for whether it's mechanical setup or through the software that we use for the braking and etc. So a lot goes into it. Yeah, it's quite tricky to get it right, but that's when, you know, you got such a great team like ours. We've got all very intelligent people behind us you know, back at base, and also the ones that travel to the race with us that, you know, do so much hard work, all this homework to make our lives easier on track. So when we go to new venues like Rome this year, for example, we hit the ground running, and we had a really strong first day and second day. So yeah, it comes down to that. And some teams get it better than others, get it right than others, but yeah, it's not straightforward. But and also for the drivers, you know, we're going to have to obviously do the simulations, but also once we get to the track for rail, we have to be able to, you know, get on top of the track as quickly as possible. We're just a few laps of practice before we get into qualifying. So yeah, anything we can learn, just little secrets of what they're doing, you know, surface sort of grip levels, etc. As Sam touched on, you know, it's indoor, outdoor. That's quite unique. What does that need? What does that require from the car? A lot of it's just a lot of it's, you know, a real calculated process, and some of it we have to sort of take a punt on and go with our gut. So yeah, it's a fun process and really rewarding if you get it right.
Well, there you go. That is why, you know, for those that don't know, that's what makes Formula E so exciting. Fresh tracks, fresh challenges. So it's new for everyone. There's a little thing we like to do when we interview guests on our show. It's a little section called recommendations. So we want to get to know about the stuff that you're into that maybe we are missing out on, or we should just, you know, join the bandwagon, so to say. So this is where we use your powers of influence to ask, you know, 3 little questions that, you know, could probably help us out. So starting with you, Sam, what are you watching at the moment? What is on, you know, on Netflix or the Amazons or the Apple TVs, or maybe just something you watch at home that is your go-to, that you love watching and just cannot get enough of?
Do you know what? So the last sort of 2 weeks I've been living a little bit in limbo. So I've just moved house and I haven't had Sky. and I haven't had Wi-Fi, so I haven't been able to really watch anything apart from preview, which has kind of left me a little bit in the dark when it comes to watching things. There's obviously one main thing coming up that I'm going to be glued to, and that's the Euros. Yes. So I will be absolutely, utterly glued to that. Watching us in the friendlies, I was underwhelmed, to say the least, to be honest. I thought that we should walk over those two teams, but look, maybe get the bad stuff out the way now, and then we'll be better in the tournament. I think that when everybody knows that it's crunch time and we play our full fighting 11, then I think we should be okay. We might not be the favourites, but my God, we should be reaching a quarter or a semi, to be honest.
Completely agree. I mean, considering how we've had basically, European domination and all English, of course, it's not just the English players that made Chelsea and Man City get to the finals of Champions League, but it shouldn't take beyond 60 minutes to get a goal past Romania. I don't think New Zealand have those much problems. I think even Chris Wood could bang in a few past Romania on a good day. Mitch, of course, you've mentioned you take your iPad and you watch your Netflix and that on the plane. What are you, more of a series kind of guy? Are you one of those kind of people like me that just gets really into really dark, weird documentaries? What is your vibe?
My vibe's all over the place, to be honest. I love all sorts. I love reality stuff. I love just more series, to be honest. But more into like sort of either dark comedy or investigation stuff, or just action-packed thrillers. So yeah, I've watched quite a bit of stuff. It's funny, whenever everyone asks me what I've been watching, you have a complete mind blank of what we watch. But I just started a series last night called Startup. And yeah, that seems quite encouraging, actually. It seems quite good. About a bit of cryptocurrency and sort of a bit of a dodgy family background. So yeah, that seems quite good. Yeah, but I'm up for anything, to be honest. So I just watched a documentary on the nail bomber from London in the 90s, was it? Or no, sorry, early 2000s. I just watched it, I've already forgotten when it was. And how they found the guy who created the bombs. So all that sort of stuff I find fascinating. Whether it's also like Billions and Homeland, these things I love. So yeah, I'm not really into like sci-fi, to be honest. Anything that's sort of fake, I am really not into. I like like sort of real stuff. Even if it's drama, like you can sort of half relate to it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. I loved Sex Education when it was out.
Oh, series,
that was hilarious, and the third season's coming out soon. So because normally the Brits, I find the Brits comedy stuff is not the best.
Oh please, Mitch.
How dare he? What kind of comedy have we had from New Zealand? What have we had, huh?
Twilight Concords.
Of course, that's actually banging. Sorry, yeah, my bad. I retract my comment.
You sat you down straight away.
That is like the OG of just great comedy. So yeah, sorry, Sam, I can't back you up here, mate. You're on your own here.
Mate, we've got right Friday night dinner. We got In Betweeners. We got some of the game shows. 9 out of 10 Cats. We got Greg Davies. We got so much funny stuff.
Yeah, I'm back on Sam's team. Sorry, Mitch. I'm back on Sam's team.
You even said, Mitch, that you liked the Gervais thing that he's been doing. Was it Afterlife or something?
Afterlife.
Oh yeah, Ricky Gervais. Afterlife is great.
Is great. I would say just some of the stuff on Netflix is a bit limited, but yeah. To be fair, the British stuff is getting better.
Okay,
but,
he's changed his tune. That's good. Well
but
done.
Yeah, it's it is good.
Cool.
To,
It's got out the hole.
I like
stuff,
to be honest. If it's not too cheesy and corny. So, but I found the Sex Education comedy. What I was trying to get at is that the British stuff, and it was obviously full on British comedy, and I thought that was fantastic. So, yeah.
There was one thing, Dre, that I think you probably watched and and loved as well because of your love
Mm-hmm.
of NFL. Did you watch the Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez?
That was really good. It was quite, and the
Wow.
thing is, because he was such a great, player. I feel weird saying anything good about him.
Yeah.
But he was such a good player when he was playing. That you got me there, definitely. Anything like back behind the scenes stuff we love.
I was about
So
the Last
definitely.
Dance was absolutely
That was amazing.
Yeah, that I had to make sure that I got 2 jerseys because of that. It's true. So I'm going to get you guys. Hopefully, you guys are not going to argue about this one, but I'm looking for new songs to be able to put on our playlist. So I'll start off with Mitch. What band or artist are you listening to that you think we should have on our playlist?
Recently, I've been vibing Black Coffee a lot. I love Black Coffee at the moment. So probably some Black Coffee. Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty
all the latest
I'm older and I'm not as cool.
You're feeling exposed now, right?
I'm not as cool. So do you know what? Like I'm gonna leave here. I'm gonna go and do a workout in a minute. And what's on there is like more old school stuff that I was listening to growing up. I find that really gets me going a little bit more. So I'll have a bit of Dre there, a bit of Snoop Dogg. I might even throw in a bit of Linkin Park. I might have some Eminem. So it's a mixture. But then I might have some Diplo. I might even throw in some Skrillex. Like all kinds of stuff that's got high energy, a good beat, and just gets me. I think music is obviously very individual, how it makes you feel and how it moves the certain person listening. So these kind of things get me going anyway.
Sam, I'm gonna make you feel like really at ease with your musical taste because I'm there with you. But I also was, and Matt's gonna be surprised at this. We went to this thing called the Backyard Cinema, and there was playing like loads of old 80s songs and things like that. And I have been playing on repeat Easy Lover, Phil Collins.
Wow. Well, that's taking it. That's taking mine and going back. It's gone back more, man.
It's a big throwback.
I thought I was bad saying like Linkin Park from 2000. You've
just
kept
on going.
Shout out to Phil.
Go back 2 decades, yeah.
You're such a tender kind of. So this is the thing. Like Dre is like the lovable bear. That's showing your tender side of you. So shout out to Phil Collins, of course. Chance, of course, being an athlete, of course, in this recommendations sort of segment. Social media can be hit and miss as being an athlete. Everyone's opinions get thrown at you, but do you have social media accounts that you enjoy looking at? Just a little bit of downtime, you just have a little look at, whether it's on the Instagram, the Twitters. No one really uses Facebook anymore. There's so much going on there other than family from my eyes. But any accounts that you love checking out or personalities that entertain you?
To be honest, I'm not a very frequent social media user. I use it literally for business. In fact, my account sits with somebody that does it for me. So, to be honest,
I'm not much better. To be honest, I'm not massive into it. I just love stuff. I follow the sports, but or like meme sort of accounts like Barry's banter bus on that sort of stuff. But honestly, I'm not massively into social media. So I'm probably more of an Instagram guy than the other channels. I go to Twitter for anything news. So that's when I was watching the fight last night. I was on
outrage
and just seeing all the comedy that comes into that. So yeah, honestly, not one in particular that I go to. I'm like, yeah, he's great to, because I've got a love-hate relationship with social media. So
before we move on to that final cue with Dre, because we've touched upon it and it's just come up again. You are professional athletes. Of course, we're not fighters. None of us are out here making that crazy money. What do you make of it all in this kind of crossover mad entertainment game? Is it entertainment gone too far? Is it kind of, fair play to the kid. He's making some serious money, but I was scared. I was worried for Floyd, especially. I think was it the end of the first or second round when Logan Paul was getting a few flurries of punches. I was going, Floyd shouldn't look like this. This shouldn't be happening.
I think it was a show, complete show. Like, you look at the stats of the fight. Logan Paul only landed like 12% or 13% of punches thrown. He threw double the amount of punches compared to Floyd. If Floyd wanted, I think the contest could have been over in a couple of minutes, to be honest, even though he's half the size of the other guy. But the whole point is it's an exhibition. It was never meant to be Floyd Mayweather knocking the bloke out after 50 seconds. Like, you do that in a heavyweight. Tyson would do that, but it was a competitive match. So you have to take it into context. It's an exhibition, and people want it to go the 8 rounds, and it does Mayweather more damage than anybody else, to be honest. But I don't think it's really done him any damage because his record is 50-0. So you can't argue with his record when he's fought real people on real occasions. He does the job, and he did his job that last night. He gave an exhibition fight. There was no need to do anything outrageous, I don't think. But this whole need for social media stars now to get in a boxing ring and think that they can compete with some of the world's best. I'm not going to go onto a football pitch and try and compete alongside Messi or Ronaldo because there's no point. Like, it's not going to happen. I think it's actually quite a dangerous thing to do because you get on the wrong end of the wrong guy who you might have tagged. Then he thinks, right, I'm gonna hurt you. You could really hurt yourself. That's just my opinion, and I'm in no way. I don't have any record of boxing or MMA, so I can't really comment, but I think it could turn quite dangerous quite quickly. And then, you know what, it's going to be the organizers and it's going to be boxing that gets a bad rep, not the guy that took the fight, the social media star. It'll be boxing that gets the bad rep.
That's very true. Well, Mitch, how did you watch the fight? I'm guessing time zone wise, it was probably an early morning for you, or did you do the stupid thing that I did, pull an all-nighter and laptop in bed kind of vibe, really regretting my choices?
Well, actually, I got the days wrong. Actually, I woke up at 4 a.m. here on Saturday or Sunday morning. So I was like, why hasn't it started yet? And I didn't realize it was actually on Monday morning. That was smooth. Yeah. So I repeated my next morning, and I didn't really know what to expect. It's obviously Floyd. He's mid 40s now. Obviously, the only thing I was worried about is obviously the weight difference to reach. Look, I've been following their accounts quite a bit, and it does look like it's, especially the Paul brothers, they do take this boxing stuff seriously. Like, they are training pretty hard. Whether I think it's right that he's been able to fight the world's, arguably the greatest fighter ever. I think it's a bit wrong. I think obviously Floyd just needed some cash. I think he's probably just, his lifestyle was drained the bank account and he needed a bit of coin. So it's an easy way, a guy with high profile on the YouTube and a bit of hype. It was. I just took it for what it was. I thought Logan Paul actually did a good job. He held his own. Yeah. You look back at how he was against Mayweather against McGregor. It's okay. Obviously, and Floyd was even younger, so obviously would have given Conor a harder time. But to be fair to him, I think Floyd was trying to hurt him, especially in the later rounds, but just couldn't get it done. And I think he sort of admitted at the end in his interview, look, I think he probably found it harder than what he was expecting because of his age. But yeah, it's not saying you want to see all the time because he's a legend of the sport, and I don't know how we look at it. Obviously it's gonna be a massive split. Should he be knocked him out? I don't know. I just can't really put my finger on it. It doesn't really worry me, but I love to be able to watch Floyd again. It was quite an honor. So you can still see he's just so switch on, smart, and just gets it. So, but do I want to see in the future? probably not, to be honest. But look, the world's changing a lot, so who God knows what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah. I mean, there's one fight that everybody wants to watch, isn't it? And we're being denied it again. So let's hope that Tyson Fury rolls over Wilder, and then we can get that thing done.
Back on track. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, you know, Floyd is one hell of a special athlete. I just feel like I hope he takes his purse, just invest it in crypto or something, stop fighting these kids, and, you know, live a happy life. You're an undeniable talent. I think you've done the right thing, Dre. I think you did the right thing skipping on that. So kudos to you, buddy.
Literally, boxing has been, bar Anthony Joshua and maybe a couple of the heavyweights. It's actually just been finished to me for a long time. And unfortunately, Floyd has actually, dug a deeper grave to boxing by doing this nonsense that he is doing. But I won't get into that because I've got different opinions than you guys, and it will take us well over time. But one thing we can all agree on that, especially I'll speak for Matt as well, like we are now I feel like we're part of Team Jaguar. But, what does it mean to both of you guys being part of Jaguar Racing? So I'll start off with you, Sam.
I mean, I'm new to Jaguar Racing, so I'm the new kid. But it's fantastic. British driver, British brand, so much history involved. So to get that first win in Diriyah was really special for me. I've been involved in this series for a long time, since the beginning, since its inception, and I was at one team for that whole time. But I'd looked to join Jaguar on multiple occasions before, and the timing was just right for joining the team for this season. And I'm super happy that I did. I feel settled already. I have a fantastic teammate. I have some great people around me. And as I said, the whole British brand, British driver thing, it really works. And yeah, I'm just super happy to be part of the team.
And Mitch, what does it mean to you to be, being part of Jaguar Racing?
It's been really special because, I came in from the first season. Once I entered the championship, I was the first driver alongside another British driver, actually, back in 2016, and obviously they had been out of the sport for quite a few years. So to still be with the team now, obviously I very much feel part of the family at Jaguar. So I've got a huge amount of respect for what the brand has achieved in the past and what we're achieving at the moment. I'm very proud of being part of this team and what we've done so far and where I can see it being in the future. So to be quite a pivotal role in that has been pretty cool, and to get a few of their milestone results, first pole wins, podiums, etc. is a real honor. And then hopefully a championship at some point. That would be to really tick it off would be incredible. So the brand is in such a great place. The cars on the road, they're one of the most beautiful cars out there. Proper modern luxury, and they're taking a massive turn in their sort of design strategy over the last few years, and see them on the road nowadays, and they're really, really beautiful. So it's better to represent a real high-end luxury brand is another honor as well. So it's cool, and hopefully we can share many more successful results on track together. So and with Sam obviously on board.
You guys have got two new fans, so Jack, feel free to take us all around the world with you. No problem. They'll be there. Well, pom-poms cheering you guys on, definitely for sure.
Not the pom-poms cheering. No.
I knew he was going to bite on that
one. No.
Nice try, Jay. Nice try. Well, gentlemen, I have to say on this high note, thank you so much for spending this past hour chit-chatting with us, all good things, Formula E, Floyd Mayweather, our playlists, football, all that good stuff, our comparative geographical locations. I just want to say thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you, Jaguar, for making this possible. Thank you, Formula E, for putting on exciting races. And, shout out to all the boys and girls that make the sport happen, make the team function. And yeah, gents, just thank you so much for stopping by.
A pleasure,
No.
guys. Thank you.
Oh,